Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Meet the Controllers session with Charlotte Moore, sponsored by Broadcast Magazine. Before we start, let me just draw your attention, if you haven't spotted it already in the previous sessions, to the festival app and the interactivity of it. Please do use it. I've got a little screen here, and as you write questions, they will pop up, and I will be able to go to them and refer to them during the course of the session. I will be throwing it open as well to your questions if you just prefer to put your hand up and ask something direct. But please do use the app. Charlotte needs no introduction because she runs the biggest channel, and you all know who she is. So I'm just going to get stuck in straight away. Now, I mean, you're sort of, more than a year into the job now.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising thing about running BBC One?
I really enjoyed, I have to say, the last year's been a fantastic experience. When you run the nation's sort of most favourite, most popular channel, you get to work with the very best talent. You get to, I guess, have this sort of, my job is to sort of share my vision for the channel, but my job is also to encourage those creatives to come to me with their very best ideas. And I've really enjoyed, and have I been surprised by it? No, I think it's what I would have expected, but I've really enjoyed the conversations that we've had together with all those genre, both the people in commissioning, but indeed the very best in their field. I've really enjoyed the appetite that I think they have, and indeed I think the audience has, for BBC One to be a mainstream channel, but to also have that ability to take creative risks. And I think, actually the clip I think we're going to show soon, Happy Valley, really did, for me, sort of encapsulate what a modern BBC One should be.
Well, we'll get to
in
that
that way that it feels that it's genre busting,
yeah, and
that it feels that actually when you take those risks, what's been really fantastic is to feel that the audience comes with you. And
all
I think knowing that,
we'll interrogate this whole question of creative risk and whether it's real in a moment. But I mean, there's a basic contradiction in BBC One, isn't there, at the moment, in that your ratings are good, you're up in peak at the weekends especially, yet you don't really get critical acclaim. You had a terrible time at BAFTA. You're not even nominated for Channel of the Year this year. I mean, how do you explain that contradiction?
I don't really sort of recognise the idea that we don't get critical acclaim. I think whether it's Doctor Who that's coming up this weekend, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. Peter Capaldi is absolutely mesmerising in it. Whether it's Sherlock, we had a fantastic Christmas. Bake Off arriving on BBC One, I think it's been a fantastic few weeks.
Well, that's someone
watching
else's
Bake
show.
Off.
Not,
Well, I nurtured it on BBC Two, and it was very much it's my commission on BBC Two, and brought it to BBC One, and it's great to see it flourish, and I think it brings a new, modern, fresh tone to BBC One. But I think and Happy Valley, I think has has arrived on the channel to much critical acclaim. So I think there are some fantastic shows on the channel. I think it is a mainstream channel, but I think there is a real appetite, as I say, to take risks and to create those new genre-busting shows.
Well, I mean, that's not really how the BBC Trust see it, is it? I mean, they don't think you are taking risks enough. They think you're predictable, they think you're playing safe, that you're not distinctive enough.
Again, I've said it before, I don't agree with what the Trust say about us being predictable or safe.
It's not up to you to agree or not. The BBC Trust is your regulator. They have decided, they have given you a verdict that you are playing safe, you are too predictable. You can't just ignore it and say they're wrong.
76% of the population they actually choose to watch BBC One every week. That's, I think, something like 44 million people choose to watch BBC One because I think for them it is their favourite channel. They do feel that, yes, there are much loved shows there, whether it's EastEnders, Holby, Apprentice, MasterChef. These are shows that are hugely loved, and they feel like real events in the schedule as you go through the year. And everyone goes, oh, is it Strictly soon? Oh, when's The Apprentice coming back?
No, but look, I know the BBC doesn't really get regulation, but these are your regulators. They have decided this. They've put you on the equivalent of special measures. They've said you've got 6 months to come up with a plan, and they're going to test you in 12 months. And you're saying, oh, they're wrong. Look at the viewers, they watch us.
Christian, I think the trust are absolutely there to encourage us and to be there to encourage us to take creative risks. I feel we absolutely are taking those creative risks, and I don't think there's anything predictable about Peter Capaldi and Doctor Who.
Their report is based on audience research. So you can't just say, oh, I think we do. Because the audience are telling the trust that you don't.
But the audience
You've got to have a bit more. I mean, is this what you're going to say in 6 months? We think you're wrong. We don't have a plan. We just think you're wrong.
I would say that the titles that, that are the outstanding new titles on the channel that are coming down that both have been on the channel in the last 6 months and that are coming down the line show big creativity and risk-taking. And I would say that, I don't think anyone would say that Happy Valley, I don't think there's been a drama like Happy Valley on the channel before. The Missing, which is coming...
That's the third time you've mentioned it. Let's go to the clip. Audiences loved it. It's brilliant. Where was the creative risk in a cop show by an award-winning writer and Sarah Lancashire?
I would say that there hasn't been anything like that on BBC One before. I think it's surprised at every turn. I think the moment you thought you were watching a cop show, it wasn't just a cop show. It was absolutely a family drama about, Catherine and her sister, two northern women who were, the complex storytelling in Happy Valley where you were unravelling this really dark past of abuse, rape. I think the complexity of both the subject matter, its unflinching sort of gritty realism, the fact that it kept you week after week, surprising at every turn where you never knew where the story was taking you next. Yes, I think we had Sally Wainwright, of course, Last Tango, BAFTA award-winning Last Tango. If you thought you were coming to Happy Valley that would be the same tone, it absolutely wasn't. And I think brilliantly, yes, we had Sarah Lancashire, fantastic part, but I would say, the part of a lifetime in terms of not the usual Sarah Lancashire we see. James Norton, very new talent, I think did an outstanding role. So, I feel that Happy Valley was genre-busting, and I suppose when you say to me, the trust are here to encourage us to do more creative and we don't feel we're doing it, I suppose what I'm saying to everybody in this room, that sort of show that really does cut through and that really does take those risks to go further in that gritty realism than we've ever gone before with a contemporary drama, and to mix, it isn't just a cop show, it's absolutely about a community that is and a dark past that's unearthed in that community. And I would say to all the genres, take hold of that creative risk. I'm not saying I want more of the same show. I'm not saying I want ideas that are here's more of the same. But I'm saying look at that drama and think about all the things that we all felt when we watched it, that took the channel in a new direction, and come to me with ideas that continue to be that. Risk-taking and visionary.
I suppose what the Trust would say is that this was an excellent series in a sea of predictability. And if you look at what you've got coming up, Cider with Rosie, Inspector Calls, David Walliams, it's all fine if you want to be popular and mainstream. Just don't go on about pushing the boundaries and creative risk, because they're not.
I think it is always a mix on BBC One. I will always say there has to be something for everyone every week of the year. And the fantastic thing, whether it's comedy, drama, entertainment, factual, is there's real opportunity, because we're a big channel, there's real opportunity to continue to take those risks. And I really do mean there's opportunity to do what you might describe, Cider with Rosie, Lady Chatty. I think those are reinventions of classic literature. I think there's room for us to do that. We can do period drama. We can do, I've said that I really am enjoying bringing more factual stories into drama as well. We've got A Song for Jenny. Frank McGuinness has written, Emily Watson starring in it, which is a story, incredibly moving story of Julie Nicholson's response to her daughter dying in the 7/7 bombings. We've got The Living and the Dead, which we've just announced today, which is Ashley Farrow and Matthew Graham, who did Life on Mars. They come with a really exciting thriller which will terrify you. It's set in a community on the cusp of industrialisation. The combine harvester ploughs through the fields and awakens the dead. It's going to be really scary. Again, I read that script, Ben gave it to me, and the two of us read it and went, God, this really is taking period drama into the world of the supernatural. That's very exciting. So, you know, in the commissions that we're making and in the series that I see coming down the line, I honestly don't think you'll be disappointed. I think it will always be a mix, and you won't always like everything. The Trust won't always like everything. But the challenge is to make sure that we're relevant to a broad population. You know, it's really important that it feels relevant to people's lives. That's the role of BBC One, to feel that it's a channel that's keeping up with the modern day, that is relevant.
Okay, we'll come to that as well in a moment. But I mean, the other criticism of the BBC Trust was that the research found that 63% of the 7 to 9 peak time slot was accounted for by 10 programmes. These 10 programmes are some of the BBC's most popular, they said, but they leave few opportunities for the introduction of new programmes. What are you doing about that?
I think it's always been a thing on BBC One that those much-loved shows that bring your audiences, and indeed some of the lighter viewers and the underserved audiences that we really need to reach, that those shows, you know, are incredibly important. That's why 76% of the nation turn up every week. That's why they choose to watch it. I think it is really important that those much-loved shows, like EastEnders, you know, it's fantastic watching Dominic really, you know, kind of bring his vision to EastEnders. It's really important that they become part of a modern BBC One as well. It's really
so they're
important.
wrong about that as well?
You need, well, I think those are big brands, and I think, like they say, they're popular, and my job is to make sure that if we're going to keep them on the channel, they have to move with the times and evolve and be part of a modern BBC One. Obviously, you know, I took the decision to not recommission Waterloo Road. You know, that was a difficult decision to make, but I did feel that we needed to have more creative headroom. I think it's really important on BBC One that, you know, we have very few repeats on the channel, and there's a lot of creative headroom for those new shows. But I absolutely, you know, that decision was taken several months ago, that Waterloo Road had reached the end of its life cycle, and that the upside of that would be we would be able to creative renew in that area. And I'm looking at both factual ideas and drama to try and make sure that 8 p.m. is a really vibrant place to work. Obviously, we've brought Bake Off to the channel as well in that 8 p.m. slot. So again, I think these shifting tones and the modernising of BBC One is something that, you know, you don't achieve it overnight. It's an ever-evolving, ever-changing creative place. But again, I would say to everyone in the room, I'm really determined, I'm really passionate to make BBC One feel like a modern channel for the future. And I hope everyone will join me on that.
Now, the aim of the second clip is about your riskiest programme or moment or decision. So can you explain this clip? And is it an example of a risky decision?
I mean, obviously, I had to pick something that I'd commissioned and is already out there. And obviously, I feel that a lot of the commissions that are coming down the line, you know, I can't show them to you yet. But Tumble I chose because, you know, everybody who works in entertainment and every broadcaster and every channel controller will know the holy grail is to find those big entertainment hits. When you see The Voice and you see Strictly on the channel, there's a fantastic glow that, you know, families can come around the telly to watch entertainment. It's a big part of what BBC One is here to do. We are here to entertain. And Saturday night, bringing the family around the TV for those shared moments, in my view, is an incredibly important moment. So I'm very determined that we should find that next big Saturday night hit. But with that comes huge risk. It's really hard to land new shows on Saturday nights. The reason I've put the clip is, well, should we play the clip first, actually, and then I can talk a bit more about it afterwards? I think when I watch that, I think, you know, obviously there's a huge risk in getting up in those hoops and doing some of that stuff, and I don't know how they do it. So obviously in the content, I think there is an enormous amount of risk. But, you know, I think when you're looking for the next entertainment hit, sometimes in the history of new hits on Saturday nights, sometimes you're looking at a shift on the telly, you're looking at something that comes out of something else. It's a turn of the wheel, but it may not be a radical turn of the wheel. You know, and in many ways, Tumble is the little sister of Strictly. That's quite a hard, risky thing to do, because Strictly is a hugely loved show. But, you know, Tumble has... so, you know, it feels like a risk when you launch something very different like that, and yet, in the same ilk, that does feel like a risk. Prized Apart, which is something that we announced, I think it was earlier this week we announced it, which is, you know, what I would see as not a small shift on the tiller, but a massive game-changing idea where we take Adventure Challenge, which is really sort of factual entertainment adventure challenge, and mix it with big Saturday night studio. Feels to me like potentially an incredibly game-changing way of doing entertainment. So, you know, it's important in the mix that we try lots of different things, and I think knowing where you're going to find that hit is anybody's guess.
I wondered if your riskiest decision was to say Miranda Hart was going to be presenting the Generation Game.
Miranda and I are working very closely together. I speak to Miranda regularly. I think with social media, what's difficult is when something gets announced, everybody starts talking about it. Miranda's an incredibly busy woman.
What happened? Because, I mean, she basically denied it. She tweeted, it's nice to see your thoughts, Regeneration Game, but to reiterate, let's shut that door on it for now. It's one of a few private brainstorms. The first I've heard of it.
Miranda's very busy. You know, she's a very successful actress. She's just come back from Hollywood. She's busy writing her sitcom for Christmas. I think when social media starts talking about an idea that we're very much in discussions about, we can't talk about the detail, we still can't talk about it, I think that makes it very difficult when you're busy doing something else.
Is she doing it?
Miranda and I are we're working very closely together on what a new Generation Game will be.
So when you said you're bringing it back with Miranda Hart, you're not quite yet.
The details of what a new game will be, I'm bringing it back.
You are, well, still not okay. Is it coming back with Miranda or not?
Miranda and I are working very closely on what a new Gen Game will be. We don't want to talk about the detail because until those details are all finalised, I think it's very difficult. And I think when social media started asking lots of questions, but Miranda and I talk regularly about it.
It was you who talked about it, not social media. I don't know. But anyway, so I mean, in 2 or 3 years' time, Saturday night on the BBC One will be Generation Game, maybe with Miranda Hart, followed by a singing talent show. That kind of thing.
Well, we're trying lots, we're piloting lots. Prized Apart is absolutely not a singing talent show, if that's what you thought. So we're trying lots of different things. I think the search for the new turn of the wheel, I think, you know, talent shows, we know that, you know, when they work incredibly well, but I think I'm not only looking for talent shows, I'm looking at different ways of, as I say, mixing genres, mixing things that have gone before to try and find the next big hit. Is that what you want them to provide? Yeah, I think that's absolutely. I think come to me with new ideas that genuinely feel to you like they're incredibly exciting because we haven't seen them before.
What do you feel you're not getting at the moment in terms of
I think sometimes I think people look at BBC One and assume that you want more of the same. I think it's often a way that anybody who's in development, and I know when I come from making programmes, and you busily make a programme and then you come up for air and you look at the telly and you think, oh right, so you want more of that. And that sort of trying to get people to understand the shared vision of what we're trying to do, but not to feel like it's more of the same, is a very difficult, you know, conversation to be having or to articulate. So I would encourage people to not think, you know, to come to me with ideas that may feel, is that really BBC One? Is that too broad? Is that too, different to what's gone before? But I'd encourage you to come and have the dialogue because I think we're really open to it.
Okay, let's talk about factual now for a bit. I mean, now, given your background, hopes are very high in terms of what you would be commissioning. Pound shop wars, parking mad, scrappers, Del Boys and dealers. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if they were Channel 5 titles, would you? I mean, are you... Because what quite often happens, I think, when people have come from a particular background is they cross-dress a bit and they sort of go the other way. And I wonder whether you felt that pressure.
Are you saying I'm cross-dressing?
Well, no, maybe you've gone aggressively populist when you come from a background of documentaries about Lagos and all the rest of it. I mean, are you comfortable with that kind of
I think those are obviously
genre?
Part of what we do on BBC One. Popular documentary, you know, Pound Shop Wars has been a really entertaining look at something which we've all noticed is part of our lives. The pound shops on every high street and the battle that's going on. I think it was a really fun way into a very timely subject, as I would say parking is. I think that's only part of what we do on BBC One. Obviously, when you inherit a channel, it takes a time to bring those new titles through. I've commissioned The Met, which will be, I think, a really groundbreaking look at one of the biggest police force in the country, top-down, extraordinary access to policing modern Britain. KFC, which again is one of those big institutions. I want to get inside to go, how do they deliver all that chicken? How does that work? What's the kind of motive behind the big fast food companies in this country? We've commissioned as well a series about cancer. I think in the last sort of 10 years, it's extraordinary how, there are more people living with cancer in this country than ever before, partly because of the way we treat it, partly because our ability to cure it. But I think it's a very difficult, challenging subject, very provocative, but I'm really determined that we have that full range. Those things will take a time to reach the channel. You can't bring these big, what I would see as quite landmark documentary pieces that I hope will be very relevant to a BBC audience, but you can't bring them about quickly. A six-parter on the Met takes a year and a half to reach the screen.
Because what quite a few people have said to me when I've mentioned casually to everybody I've passed that I'm interviewing you, is
that what you've been talking about?
Where is the next Who Do You Think You Are? You've still got that as a great hit, 9 o'clock, but it's 10 years old.
Well, I think that's what I say about finding those. I think what's really interesting in factual, because I will always continue to want to do observational documentary. It's something that I feel very passionate about, albeit with a new approach and a new way of doing it, which some of these titles are taking a new approach. But I think in factual, I think the challenge there is it's actually really challenging ourselves with the form. And yes, we want to create those next formats, but within that format, observational documentary should be a very big part. I'm absolutely convinced that the next formats of the future have a very light touch of construct on them. We all know, anyone who works in factual, formats are really there to accelerate the narrative, to up the jeopardy and the emotion. But from that moment onwards, I really want to make sure that there's authenticity and that for the experience of those people or those contributors going through the format that we've set, it's a very, very real experience. So finding the next formats is something that I'm really keen on doing. 24 Hours in the Past, which we've just announced today as well, is an immersive living history format which will take 6 well-known faces and immerse them in a very hermetically sealed, fast-forward but really tough challenge into some of the poorest conditions in Victorian Britain. We're working with the National Trust, who have helped us we're using original locations and really trying to make them as authentic as we possibly can. And through that, I'm also bringing in original testimony from the time, so that the experiences that we're recreating are actually very much sort of infused with, in fact, I'm looking at Naomi there, who's working on it with me. Hope I'm describing as we've discussed. But they're very much infused with personal testimony, so you really emotionally feel what it would have been like to be a rubbish picker in Victorian Britain. Now, I don't think we've really found many ways to tell those stories, and I think that's really exciting to bring that to an audience on BBC One. But the attention to detail, and for me, it's actually BBC One is so often about that emotional connection that you really want your audience to feel. You want them to feel that from the get-go in a programme, they are really right in there with you, whether it's a drama or whether it's a factual piece, and that they're really getting very close to the experience of Victorian Britain.
Let's go to the third clip. Now, all the controllers have been asked to come up with a "now what was I thinking" clip. What was yours?
So I've chosen boomers. Shall I explain why it was what was I thinking? So I think I've been in the job about 4 or 5 days, and I've just been told I got the job. And Shane and I went to a first comedy read-through. And as everyone said to me at my last Edinburgh, so comedy, entertainment, what do you know about all of this? Well, actually, my brother used to work in comedy, so I think Shane knew I knew a little bit more about it than everyone might have thought. But we went to the read-through, and it was a fantastic cast in front of us, sort of amazing cast to walk into a room and see Alison Steadman, June Whitfield, Russ Abbott. It was very exciting, Stephanie Beecham, Paula Wilcox. And it was the most thoroughly enjoyable half hour, I think, knowing that this was a piece from Jimmy Mulville, who was, after all, one of the kings of comedy. And I walked out and I said to Shane, well, God, let's just do it. Let's do it. We'll do a pilot first, but let's just commission the whole thing, because I want to keep hold of this cast, because that, to me, is gold dust. And I think Shane thought, for a controller who'd only been in there for 5 days, that was a little bit trigger-happy. And he teased me about it a lot. But I think that that sort of holding on to the fact that your gut does mean something, and whilst you seek counsel from the experts in their fields, but knowing that you can sometimes just go with your gut is something that I'm really determined to keep hold of. So Boomers for me was like, I look at it now and think, how did I make that decision on day 5? But I'm really, really pleased that I did, and I want to continue making sure that, the fear doesn't get to you and that you have that, you just know when you love it.
This one.
Nicely put, Stephanie. Thank you.
So, I mean, look, this brings us obviously to the whole question of who you're appealing to and the fact that, the average age of the BBC One viewer has gone from 56 to 59. Do you regard that as a success?
Sorry, the age or the
age.
clip we're talking about. I think, we're living in an ageing population, but I think obviously it's incredibly important that BBC One reaches young viewers as well. It's got to be something for everyone, and that should not just be the 59-year-olds. It's got to be the 20-somethings, the 30-somethings.
But you're doing more, it seems, for the older viewers, which is why more of the older viewers are watching you. Your age profile's gone up. Now, I mean, Danny Cohen, who is here, I think, in 2011 at Edinburgh, first outlined this idea of targeting an older audience. So is that what you're doing?
No, I think it is literally
with things like that.
I think, well, actually, I happen, and I'm really not 59. Might begin to look at it in this job, but I'm definitely not 59, and I really find that funny. I think good comedy cuts through age, I would say, first of all, although it's fantastic to have such a fantastic ensemble cast of national treasures. Actually, BBC One has the highest number of young viewers than any other channel. We reach more young viewers than any other channel.
But it's reducing, isn't it? That's the other thing that the Trust highlighted.
And it's very, very important, and I'm absolutely determined that we continue to bring young viewers and more young viewers to the channel. I think that's
But you're bringing less, that's the point. So you can't say we continue to bring more, because you're not bringing more, you're bringing less.
Well, I want to bring more. We've got to bring more. It's really important. This has to be a channel that isn't a channel that disappears into, that doesn't become relevant to everybody. We're a public service channel. It's really important that we're there for the whole nation.
Because the other audience demographic, obviously, that was highlighted in terms of people dropping off BBC One is the BAME audience. I mean, there's a question, the latest question on the app is, you're not relevant to a broad audience. The only diversity you continue to mention is Anita Rani. Why isn't there more on-screen BME?
I don't think that is true. I think, if you look at the range of what we're doing with Citizen Khan, if you look at The Voice, if you look at Tumble's got a really fantastic, Lewis Smith's fantastic in Tumble. I think EastEnders, I think, Lenny Henry said that's the most diverse soap on television at the moment. And I think, that's absolutely core to Dominic's vision for the EastEnders, that it should be absolutely portraying a modern Britain, and of course a diverse Britain is part of that. When I say diversity, though, I do think diversity has to be in its widest and broadest sense. I think if we're going to be appealing to a big, broad audience, there has to be diversity in all its sense, and that is old, and that is also BME, that is people from different backgrounds. And it is young people too. So
the trouble is that's not working either, is it? Because again, the BAME audience is dropping off. So you've got these two problems. I mean, do you have a strategy to tackle those?
I'm really passionate about making sure that BBC One reflects modern Britain in all its diversity, and we must do that. And anyone who knows of me knows that's always been something that I'm absolutely passionate about. And as we talked about yesterday, when we were discussing diversity with Ash, it's something that what's brilliant at the moment is it's actually supported from Tony Hall to Danny through all the commissioning teams. We are determined to change that culture, and that has to be on screen. And I think different genres have different targets they need to reach on that, because sometimes it is the writing, sometimes it is. But I really want to find a way for different voices to have a voice on BBC One. I think different perspectives, different voices, whether that's behind screen or whether it's on screen, is incredibly important. And, it is something that I'm passionate to do, and it is something that in the next few months I think you really will see that coming through, because I think we can't be a channel that doesn't really drive hard to make sure that we are relevant to a diverse audience. We can't be.
How are you going about delivering this, managerially, if you like? I mean, in terms of your personal style. I mean, look, the one thing you can say about you is that if you ask anybody what you're like to deal with, they're really nice about you. And they say, oh, she's great, and she's charming, and she's clever, and all of that kind of thing. Are those the qualities you need to be a channel controller?
I think BBC One, and indeed being a controller, you know, it's got to be a welcoming place for people who want to come and work with you. If I want the best talent to make their very best programmes for me, yes, I think it's incredibly important. I think, you know, I'm somebody who is a strong believer that, you know, an idea is, you know, just an idea. If you don't have the right team behind it, an idea is, you know, it can become a bad idea very quickly. So being the sort of person who wants to work in a team, that's why I went into television. I love the creative dialogue and the ambition that you can have in a team, and I love feeding off ideas and, you know, and growing an idea and it becomes something else. So I think, yeah, being open to ideas and knowing that it's a fun place and a place that encourages people to do their very best and to feel excited about coming to talk ideas for BBC One is you know, is incredibly important.
So you're not a bang the table kind of, you know, when they're not delivering what you want or when it's not quite right.
No, we're in it together. I believe when we commission something, I really believe, you know, quite often, actually, people say, gosh, she's asking a lot of questions about that, and I hear everyone go, oh, I'm really worried about the questions. When I ask a lot of questions about something, it's because I really, really am excited about it, and I want to go, right, let's think about how we're going to do that its best. From that moment on, and I think anyone who's worked with me knows that, we're in it together. I really want to continue that dialogue. I absolutely trust creatives to go on and make the films, but if there's an issue they want to talk about, I would encourage them to go, let's see, if you've got a concern and you need to kind of come and touch base and say this isn't working, or, you know, particularly in factual, you can go out and make a film about something and then realise actually what I thought I was finding I haven't found, and I'd go, come and tell me what you have then. So I do believe, you know, we're in it together. I'm not someone who bangs my fist on the table.
Because obviously John Simpson has been going on about all these ghastly tough women running the BBC. Who are they? Not you, by the sound of it. I mean,
I think John's entitled to his opinion, but it's not something that I recognise. You know, I don't know. I've met John once actually, but I don't know if he's referring to me, because it was I was a director and I was standing in Lagos Airport where I'd been for about 6 months, and he was coming in to report on the election, and we had quite a funny conversation. I think he thought, "What the hell are you doing?" Because all the customs people and everyone seemed to know me, so I don't know what he thought I was doing, but. So I don't think he's talking about me, no.
Okay, well, you know, this is one of those questions that's written, so I need to read it out. Would you describe yourself as being closer to Sarah Lancashire in Happy Valley, Tamsin Outhwaite from New Tricks, or Brendan O'Carroll from Mrs. Brown's Boys?
Oh, my Lord. Do you know, when I lived in Indonesia, and I remember I lived with an Indonesian family when I was about 19, and I remember the family, I'd been there for about 6 weeks, I remember the family saying to me, we need to talk to you. And I thought, all right, that's, you know, yeah. And they said, is your life at home like Lucy Ewing's out of Dallas? And I remember thinking in my head all the things that must mean, and in their heads, I don't know, I mean, mind boggles. So just remind me, you want me to say, am I more like Sarah Lancashire?
Tamsin Outhwaite.
Tamsin Outhwaite.
Or Brendan O'Carroll.
Like Brendan O'Carroll. Blimey. I mean, I thought they were going to ask
me,
was there
matriarch?
a TV personality that I would, you know, that I would aspire to be? And I was going to say to you, that's what I was. Well, I was going to say probably Birgit out of Borgen. I thought the fact that she's got a juggle family and all these, you know, really kind of complicated people in her cabinet. I thought, yeah, sometimes I sort of know what she's on about there. I think, you know, Sarah Lancashire's character is an incredible character. I mean, you know, her ability to. You know, to kind of be honest, stand for what she believes in, and, you know, not let. She's like a dog with a bone in that film, isn't she? In that series. But I think
her boss is
that's quite a. But which one do you think I am then? Do you think?
I don't know. I've never worked with you.
Well, no,
you seem charming.
Thanks very much, Christian.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. I want to throw it open in a minute, but we've got a fourth clip. That we've got to get to, which is the upcoming programme you're most excited about.
Yeah, so this is Life Story. I mean, you know, to be honest, when you're asked that sort of a question, you think of all the many things you're incredibly excited about. So, but I've picked this one, Life Story with David Attenborough, because I think, you know, it's breathtaking in its storytelling, it's breathtaking in its photography, and you see animal behaviour up close in a really emotional way, which again I think is a big part of BBC One. I want people to emotionally connect with the audience. It's light and dark, which again I think BBC One can do all of that. At the one hand it's really chilling, at the other hand it's really funny. So I've chosen this clip because I think it shows some of what the BBC does absolutely at its best. I'll just intro it quickly because it's quite a hardcore opening, because picking a clip from this series is harder than you'd think. There's two sequences. The first sequence is barnacle geese in Greenland, and these little chicks, in order to avoid the fact that the foxes eat the eggs, these barnacle geese nest way up 400 feet up on these rock cliff edges. And of course, when these little chicks are born, unfortunately, they don't fly until 6 weeks old. But at day 3, if they don't jump off those rocks, they aren't going to live because they've got to feed. So the mum and the dad fly first, and these little chicks just instinctively know on day 3 what to do next. Let's see the clip. So both of those clips, I suppose, I think it's amazing how both species have adapted to what are impossible situations. You know, that octopus in Indonesia doesn't know, you know, it can't hide. So it's adapted and worked out how to get itself in, because it lives in a place where there's nowhere to hide on the ocean bed. So it's adapted itself to find out, you know, find the coconut shell it can roll up into. The chicks, incidentally, 50% of them survive. Again, it's that sort of natural selection in action in the most extraordinary sequence that I don't think I've ever seen before. But
I thought that was a new series of Tumble.
Yeah. God help me if we get people to jump off rocks.
Wouldn't have made it through to the next week,
isn't it? In another way, yeah. Yeah. But you know, that little chick did live, just so you feel better about it.
What, the one that hit the ground?
Yeah, that's the that is the it was very hard to pick a clip that showed the whole thing, but that little chick, unbelievably, you see when you see one going faster than the other, it's all because how you take off. If you take off at the right, just so you know, if you ever do this, if you take off with your wings out flapping like that, you're going to land, because they're so fluffy and soft that those bounces, I know you're all gasping, but those bounces are okay. The one that slips and plummets faster, of course, that would mean that, you know, it won't live.
Toast.
Toast.
Right. Who would like to ask a question? Up at the back. Jonathan Shallot.
Hi, Jonathan.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, Jonathan Shallot. If you, Christian, and the BBC Trust had their way from the question you've been asking at the beginning, was Charlotte would have to scrap all her major shows and put only on new, innovative, risky shows. So I say to Charlotte, when that time comes that you decide that Graham North and EastEnders Strictly is going to come off screen, what are going to be the criteria that put you in that position to make that decision?
I think, you know, shows, if you feel... if shows are much loved and they continue, as I say, to move with the times, if I feel they are evolving and they don't feel shows that feel traditional and so old-fashioned that they're not part of the channel, then I think you begin to think, is this still working? I think some shows naturally reach the end of their creative life cycle. Sometimes because the people that are involved in the show just go, you know, I really want to do something new. Sometimes because, for whatever reason, the dynamics of that show suddenly don't feel in touch with the modern times. So, you know, it's something you constantly ask, but I think one of my jobs is to make sure that, you know, those much-loved shows do continually evolve. That's what television's so good at, I think.
And behind you, yes.
Hi, it's Magnus from The Garden. Charlotte, I just thought it might be helpful for the audience just to maybe very briefly in each genre understand some of the things you're looking for in the coming months.
I'll try not, because I can go on about this forever, and anyone who wants to...
That's why I said brief.
I'll try and be brief, yeah. In Factual, I think I'm genuinely thinking, you know, we've done a lot about institutions. I'm looking for how do we make films about communities that feel part of modern Britain, that are telling a new story. I'm also looking for formats that might get us into new territories or new perspectives on very familiar territories. I'm very interested in how we bring science, history, some of the specialist factual subjects to a broader audience as well. Sometimes I think that's ways of doing it in quite, whether it's an anniversary that you want to celebrate or mark on the channel, or whether it's you know, a really important story. So Jeremy Paxman's World War I series, you know, I really want to have those pieces. I'd also say I'm really interested in new talent. I think we have some fantastic faces on the channel, but I really want to bring new faces to the channel too. In drama, I think it's always about new voices, new New content, that's about new stories. I mean, that's really about asking writers to bring me their ideas that they're really passionate about. I've been very interested, and Ben and I have commissioned quite a lot of dramas based on factual stories, so we're really enjoying that. I think the great thing about BBC One drama is you can do one-offs, 3-parters, 10-parters. There's a huge range. So I would say bring me ideas that generally feel like they are subjects or takes or artistic visions of something that we haven't seen on the channel yet. In comedy, again, I think comedy is probably the hardest thing to be really prescriptive about what are you looking for. But I think, again, if you look at the range that we've got coming up on BBC One, from Peter Kay's Car Share to Woody, Kay Van Novak's new series, to new one that we're doing, Mountain Goats, set in a volunteer rescue service in the Highlands. Whoever would have thought we'd be there, but we are, with Jimmy Chisholm. Really exciting that we're doing something that's a studio sitcom. So there's a lot of range there with single camera and studio sitcom, and I think Comedy Playhouse has been a really great place for Shane and I to ask people to come with ideas that you just are passion projects that you want to make. So that I hope that describes there's a huge appetite for doing things differently and finding new titles.
Yes.
Entertainment, I think I've talked about, haven't I already? So is that all right, Max? Yeah.
Colin McKeown from LA Productions. Charlotte, you took a lot of stick about your risk credentials. I just wanted to balance it up and say that the film I produced for the B, but we never thought for a moment you'd actually put it on air. And I know you were personally responsible for allowing the credits on. We had the real mums at the end, and Jimmy McGovern said to me, they've got a new controller down there, she won't have the balls. And you did, so thanks.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, there's a hand up there in the middle.
In a non-cross-dressing sort of way, obviously.
Could you just pass the microphone along the row?
Katie McAleese, BBC Drama Production. This is actually a question for Krishnan, which is...
No, you can't do that.
I
Move
can.
on.
Just in terms of the John Simpson comment, do you think that in repeating that and asking that of a female controller, there's a danger that you're legitimising what's actually a piece of misogyny?
No. No, quite the opposite. I think when a leading BBC talent like John Simpson makes a public comment like that, one of the BBC's leading women needs to be invited to comment on it. That's why I asked it. Very, very straightforward. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nimesh from ITV Central. I wanted to ask, do you think, across BBC One and the kind of mainstream channels, why do you think we've not yet had a successful, long-running black or Asian chat show host? Is it a lack of talent, a lack of opportunities, or barriers preventing talent from coming through?
I think, I would absolutely welcome finding the right person for the right show, whether it's a talent show, an entertainment show, a comedy. I think, obviously, one can't have too many chat shows on a channel at one time. You've got to really work out the difference between them and the reason for them. But I really, again, I know some people are quite sceptical about our new absolute drive to make sure that diversity is something that we bring on the screen in a much stronger way than we ever have before. But I promise you it's absolutely there, and I'm really, really passionate to make a difference. So I would welcome you to bring us new talent, come to us with suggestions for that. There is this development fund, the Creative Development Fund, which we're launching from September, which will be through all the genres, ways of helping to develop talent across all the channels. And that is BME, its absolute focus is BME talent. So again, Mark Lindsay would be really delighted to talk to you about who those people might be. I know the talent's out there, but I think you don't just land suddenly on BBC One. You've got to be the right person in the right job at the right time. But I think that's what we're really determined to do, is to help bring that talent on and give people the opportunity and experience they need to make sure that, when the next opportunity comes up, they can be on BBC One.
It's great to hear that level of commitment. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there was a hand here, right at the front.
Hello, Elliot Gonzalez from My Talk Telly. Charlotte, I'm just wondering why you decided to bring Happy Valley back for a second series. which for me felt like it ended at series 1? Was it just for ratings again?
Sally Wainwright really wants to write a second series, and I think Sarah Lancashire's character, Catherine, I think there's a very complex story to tell in her life. I don't think it is all over for her yet. So, you know, Sally was very keen to continue writing it, and we were delighted that she wanted to.
Okay, look, in the last couple of minutes, I mean, I just wanted to sort of imagine what you would give yourself by way of advice now if you're coming into the industry. What would you say? Yeah, you know, what advice would you give an 18-year-old Charlotte Moore?
I would say definitely watch television. Definitely, so that, because I think if you're going to go and talk to people about, and you know, I've worked a lot with new talent over the years, and I think one of the things I was often amazed about is people would come in and actually they weren't really aware of what was on telly. They were curious about the world and they wanted to be able to travel and they wanted to be able to make telly, but they didn't actually watch telly. I think you do have to have a real understanding of where telly's moving and make sure that you're in touch with the different subject matters. I think through that watching of telly, I think you have to find the companies and the producers and the execs and the people who are making the sort of telly that you think you want to make. And I think you've then got to make sure that you've got lots of ideas and you've got to make contact with those people to start having a dialogue and getting that sort of help from people who are already in the industry, who you think you have a shared vision of what you want to make. So I would really encourage people to as I say, sort of have an understanding of who's making the sort of things that you want to make.
Would you advise them to join BBC in-house production?
I think we've got some great new schemes that are that we've kind of launched. Creative Access, which Michael Foster has been running, the Mama Youth and the Stephen Lawrence schemes, which are great schemes to help people from different backgrounds who may feel that it's a harder place to get in. So there are schemes like that, and I would say that BBC production is full of fantastic people in all the different genres who are experts in their field, and there's a lot of those long-running strands that BBC production you know, have the ability to run, are great places for nurturing that new talent and giving experience, and whether it's working as a runner on Lambing Live or it's working on Watchdog or it's, you know, as a young journalist, I think there is plenty of opportunity because there's lots of programming that you know, have big teams. And certainly from the genre that I come from, you know, it's very difficult as teams have got smaller and smaller. I think industry-wide, it is really difficult to get that experience and that leg up the ladder. You know, when I started off as a secretary, and in the day when someone needed their letters typing so I could type them, you know, that was, you know, people don't need someone else to type their letters anymore. It's very hard, you know, teams are incredibly tight. So I think working on those big long-running series to cut your teeth is something that BBC Productions can really offer people.
Now, you sort of dodged my opening question about awards. Do you expect BBC One will win Channel of the Year next year? Should it win? Is that how we should judge you?
I would really like to feel that BBC One is a place where we can win awards for the great content that we make. And yes, I've always, I think, to make sure that you're making, you know, I think awards are there for shows that people genuinely think cut through, as I say, genre busting or are the best they can be in class. And of course I would want that on my channel. Of course I'd want to feel that we made standout films in their genre. So I absolutely think awards should be part of the picture. They're not the only picture. I think, you know, across all the channels that every channel wants to feel that they've done something which deserves that award. So it isn't the only picture, but I'd very much hope that BBC One wins awards in the future.
Charlotte Moore, thank you very much indeed.
And
can I thank Broadcast as well for sponsoring this?